What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, and this is part 14 of my reviewing and ranking Bob Dylan's Bootleg series. We're on volume 16 because the first volume was 1 through 3 and has not been released separately. That's why this is part 14. I'm going to talk about this, and then I'm going to show you where I think it falls among the other 13. The full title of this is, you can see right there, Volume 16, Springtime in New York, 1980 to 1985. If you're a Dylan fan, you know what happened in 1980 to 1985. Shot of Love, probably the least interesting of the gospel Born Again series, partially because he was moving away from that, so I think the commitment to the cause wasn't as strong. Infidels, easily the best album of that era, and Empire Burlesque, which, as I think this set does a little bit, should have been a better album, but the 80s. The 80s. If none of that means anything to you because you don't know Dylan enough, know that this is a pretty low watermark for like generally not regarded as one of his best eras. Really out of the 80s. We had a really good album at the end of the 80s. We had sort of Infidels, was kind of a shining, kind of the beacon of the rest of the 80s, though you have 80s production issues. You have gated drums. It's definitely not the best of Dylan, but Infidels does represent the best of this era, I think. And definitely the best of 80 to 85. It's a 5-disc set. There's also a 2-disc set that has highlights. It does a pretty good job of selecting the highlights. And what you get in the 5-disc set is pretty interesting. 2 of the discs, 3 and 4, are devoted entirely to Infidels, outtakes, alternate takes, right? That's all it is, outtakes and alternate takes. And by far, that's the strongest of the 2 discs. And if I take away anything from this release, it's that I think I like Infidels more now than I did before this release. When the gospel series came out, Trouble No More, I grew to love those albums more, in being able to dive into the bootleg series, live takes and alternate takes. I think I appreciate Infidels much more after these 2 discs. I wish some of these versions or some of these songs were on Infidels and it could have been a much better album, but because the whole recording experience is pretty awesome and the stuff that was left off is pretty awesome and all that, I'm like, okay, this should have been a better album, and now I can appreciate what it is. That's disc 3 and 4. Disc 2 is all Shot of Love outtakes. Some good stuff on here, but I still, it didn't really change my opinion on Shot of Love. Empire Burlesque is on disc 5 with a couple live songs. It's frustrating because I think it shows that Empire Burlesque should have been a much, much, much better album. One of the outtakes on here, which would appear on a later album down the line, is one of the best things he's ever done. Why that wasn't on Empire Burlesque, especially this version, which sounds good. Beyond that, song that Dylan co-wrote with Sam Shepard, which maybe is all you need to know. And then we get the first disc, which the first couple times I listened to, I thought was just, what? Wow, no. And then I started to like it. It is a bunch of rehearsal material when Dylan came back and decided to, rehearse a band, record a new album. And a bunch of cover songs. A lot of some late 70s, soft rock type stuff. A Neil Diamond song. Picked the wrong Neil Diamond song. He does a couple old Dylan songs, a Street Legal song, then something from way back, like Another Side Of, I think. Right? Just some really random stuff. And the first couple times I listened to it, it almost felt like a really poor version of another self-portrait, another self-portrait. It felt like it had a self-portrait vibe to it. And I don't think it necessarily worked. But as I've listened to the box set and then heard the alternate takes from the other albums or the outtakes from the other albums, a lot of these songs really seem to explain why Dylan was doing what he was doing. Even though the songwriting, there are some epic songs that are very Dylan-esque. There's a very romantic sort of love vibe through them that I think has its fruits in these covers, in him maybe listening to contemporary music or listening to pop music from when he was writing folk anthems and kind of realizing what was happening in the pop spectrum. He's obviously trying to be a pop artist, whether it's for, and I would imagine it's not to make money. It's not to redefine his image, but because he had yet to really delve into like trying to write pop music. So that's why he's covering these songs. Like, he's learning these songs so he can figure out what the DNA is of this sort of like soft rock kind of singer songwriter easy listening stuff, and then he's going to use the DNA of those songs to make his own version of that, his sort of Frankenstein monster of that. And I think that really helped me like Infidels more. It gave me an appreciation for some of the tracks on Empire Burlesque, and even a couple of the things on Shot of Love. So as much as I did not like that first disc the first couple times, and I still think there's some really weak tracks and some of the covers don't work, it really, really helped me understand what I think is going on in Dylan's mind in those other songs. So what you get in disc one, it opens up with a Senor and a Tu Ramona. We get some just like random like old tracks. The Senor kind of sounds tired, like he hasn't yet found his motivation, but it works. And it might be intentional because Senor, a darker, unpleasant, kind of exhausted vibe, works fantastic with that song. So it's a really strong opener. I think we kind of tread water for a while. We get it to Ramona, Jesus Met the Women at the Well, Mary of the Wild Moor. Then track 5 is a Need a Woman, Need That Woman. And it's got a stomp. It's got a ferocity to it. It's like, okay, Dylan's feeling this. Like, there's energy here. These rehearsals are picking up some steam. We get a bunch of random covers. Couple more years, the Shel Silverstein thing. Mystery Train, which I could do without. Awesome, awesome cover of the late 70s sort of soft rock hit, This Night Won't Last Forever, which it works with Dylan. I don't know. I like it. I like his voice and this kind of just utterly sort of just easy listening, love balladry stuff. Fantastic. A cover of We Just Disagree with the Dave Mason song, right? Another just great, great cover song. We get his Let's Keep It Between Us, which sounds pretty good. We get a Sweet Caroline, which it's like he's trying really hard to like, let's not embrace the melody of this song in any way, shape, or form. And he didn't know that every piano bar in the world would ruin this song forever. So I really wish he had picked something that was like Brother Loves Traveling Salvation Show, or even like a Cherry Cherry or something. Sweet Caroline makes sense with his vibe that he's going for, but it doesn't work. There's a Fever. I don't think the Fever works. And then we get an Abraham Martin and John, which kind of feels good to close out the set. By far not the strongest disc in the set. Probably the weakest, but there are some interesting things on it. Shot of Love outtakes starts really strong. Angelina, awesome outtake. Price of Love, upbeat, high energy, really starts strong. We get a cover of I Wish It Would Rain, which is kind of interesting. We get a Let It Be Me, a Cold, Cold Heart, the Hank Williams song. And then the rest of these I'm just hit and miss on. They're interesting, but I don't think there's anything too compelling. Don't Ever Take Yourself Away, First Slippers, Borrowed Time, Is It Worth It? All outtakes from Shot of Love. I don't think any of those would have necessarily made the album better. Lenny Bruce, alternate mix, not my favorite song in the album. And then a Yes Sir, No Sir, another outtake, which I think would have worked, but kind of sounds like a couple other songs from this era, but I think it might be the strongest of them personally. Interesting disc. Actually might be weaker than the first disc because I think it's a strong start, but I don't think it stays that compelling. Then we get to disc 3, and now we're on all Infidel stuff for the next 2 discs. And this is some pretty good stuff. We get a Joker Man. We get like a full band version of Blind Willie McTell that definitely does not have the sort of power as the one we originally got, but it's nice to hear this song. It's a great song. Even if this had been the version that had been released, I still think it still would be up there ranked. We get 2 versions of Don't Fall Apart on Me Tonight. I love that song. I think it's a great song. Just 2 alternate takes of that. Just really, really good stuff. Neighborhood Bully. Someone's Got a Hold of My Heart, which is an outtake. Really, really good song. This Was My Love. 2 versions of Too Late, an outtake. And then an outtake version of Foot of Pride. Why Foot of Pride was not on that album? Infidels. Infinitely better. Maybe not infinitely better, but it jumps a spot or 2 in my overall ranking if we have a Foot of Pride on there. It's our second release, Foot of Pride. But we got it on the Run Through 3, I think is what it was. Great, great song. If you haven't heard Foot of Pride, man, that would have made Infidels a much better album. Disc 4, we get a Clean Cut Kid, which I think ended up on Empire Burlesque, but it was originally going to be on on Infidels. I think it helps Empire become a little better. I don't think it's needed on Infidels. Sweetheart Like You, an alternate take of that. That's a fantastic song. Baby What You Want Me to Do, outtake. Tell Me. Angels Flying Too Close to the Ground, then Willie Nelson song. We had to cover that. Baby What You Want Me to Do is a Jimmy Reed song. Julius and Ethel, an outtake about the Rosenbergs, I'm assuming. Kind of one of those kind of upbeat, fun Dylan songs. That I'm not sure it would have necessarily fit on Infidels, but I like that song. Green Green Grass of Home, alternate takes of Union Sundown and Lord Protect Union Sundown and I. Two songs that I think maybe these alternate takes might have a little more beef to them, but they make me like the originals more. Outtake Lord Protect My Child and Death Is Not the End, another outtake for Infidels. Two great discs. And I think they pair well with the original album just because of the difference in sort of the production quality and just little energy things throughout that I think make you appreciate both more. There's something to be said about the clean production of Infidels and that 80s sound that sometimes it kind of works. But my mom bought that I think the day it came out. So I've been listening to that since literally forever. And then we open up with two live performances on Disc 5, Enough Is Enough and License to Kill. License to Kill is from the Letterman show, and that's the weaker of the two sound qualities. Both are interesting, but I don't think they're absolutely mind-blowing. We get a bunch of alternate takes, and we get a bunch of alternate takes from the album. I'll Remember You. Alternate mix of Tight Connection to My Heart. Tight Connection to My Heart is a fantastic song. I love that song. It makes Disc 5 such a listen. The storytelling, the guitar playing, everything about that song. That's a really good song. And it's poppy. And it was I don't know how big of a hit, but there were videos. It was played on the radio. I wish the production on that album was just a little more rock and roll or just more 70s, what Dylan was maybe going for, because I think this song is fantastic. Seeing the Real You at Last, Emotionally Yours, Clean Cut Kid, and then we get some outtakes, Straight A's in Love, two versions of When the Night Comes Falling from the Sky, a slow and the fast. The slow is not that slow, the fast is not that fast, but they are slower and faster. Really great. Having them back-to-back works. They're really good songs. Then, absolutely just awesome, the original version of Brownsville Girl called New Danville Girl. Absolutely fantastic. I think this is one of Dylan's best lyrics. The whole thing about the Gregory Peck movie and a young gunslinger attacking another older gunslinger, and Dylan obviously must be that older person at this point in time. The college course, at least a 3-hour course you could write on this song and analyzing these lyrics and whether Dylan was trying to say something about his career, what he was doing, or I love New Danville Girl, love Brownsville Girl, just absolutely great songs, and this is just fantastic. And then we get another alternate take, the last song, Dark Eyes, another fantastic song off Empire Burlesque. So we end really, really strong, though I do think Disc 5 is not the strongest. But that's what's on here. If the spectrum of Bob Dylan fans, right, this is one of the bootleg series, which I think you have to be closer to the obsessive end, right? I immediately bought the 5-disc set, never considered buying the 2-disc set, right? I'm on that end of it. I do think the 2-disc set, if you're not that hardcore of a fan, has some really fantastic stuff on here that is probably the best representation of the era. The opening Angelina is fantastic. You get the Jokerman outtake from Infidels, the blind Willie McTell. You get the New Danville Girl. You get the Dark Eyes. You get the Tight Connection to My Heart. You get the Foot of Pride to open up the second disc. There's a lot of really good things on the 2-disc set that will show you a good representation of what Dylan, I think, was doing in the early 80s. Infidels is the best of the 3 albums. Shot of Love and but Shot of Love is probably more tolerable because of the production. Empire Burlesque, very 80s, but there's some strong writing on there, some really good songs. So I like this release. I enjoy this release. Came out in 2021, so I've had 2.5 years to really enjoy it, come to appreciate it. I have grown to like it more over the years. I think if I had done this right after this came out, my first reaction, this would have maybe been toward a little farther down the list. It's still at the back end of the list. In fact, let's get to that. It is right there at number... I'm dragging my feet here because I haven't actually brought up the list on my end. It is right there at number 11. Yeah, you already saw it. I do think it has just way more meat to it than that Traveling Through. The Whitmark demos are just, the demos. No direction on the soundtrack. I think it's kind of a hot mess. But it doesn't have the power or the intimacy or just the overwhelming sort of, I'm going to listen to this entire thing in one sitting because it's so phenomenal, of Volume 6. So I think it very comfortably sits at number 11. I think that's where I'd put it. Number 11. Yeah. I might have recency bias and think, man, maybe bump it up, and no. There rarely are some weak discs, and the Infidels stuff is still not as great as I'm maybe praising it to be. It's still Infidels, but it's a good album. Yeah, all right. Yeah, that's all I got. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on this album, on this ranking, on Bob Dylan, on the early 80s in general, if you were there. Comment, subscribe, like, share, and if you don't know, go listen to the 2-disc set. I'm pretty sure the 2-disc set is streaming, right? So it's worth checking out. There's some good stuff on there, and I think the Bootleg series has done a really good job of, like, as someone who already had really strong opinions on certain eras of Bob Dylan, it's helped me sort of, recalibrate those and appreciate Dylan a lot more than I did before. And that's kind of the goal of releases like this. And I think this is something that does lend a little more, helps you want to appreciate Dylan's early 80 output more so than maybe the final products warrant. If that makes any sense. I don't know. I'm rambling. That's all I got. Thanks for watching. Go listen to Dylan. Subscribe, like, share, comment, all that stuff. It helps the channel out. Peace. Talk to you later.